On this next podcast episode, we cover some topics that you might not typically find on my podcast if you're a consistent listener, and some topics that you might be a little bit surprised by, and some stuff that is definitely intriguing. So I just wanted to come on and do a little disclaimer. Viewer discretion or listener discretion is advised. The reason I wanted to have this episode, keep it there, and have space for it is because I do believe that the topics we covered were good topics to talk about, things in our community, in the art community, that are worthwhile to experience and listen to, and I believe that there should be a space for that. We hope you enjoy it. We appreciate you listening, giving us a shot, and spending some time with us. And so to bring us in on the podcast, my name is Josh Snyder, and you're listening to Thoughtful Discussions. And my co-host tonight is the wonderful
Brittany Sipe.
And we appreciate her very much for being here. And our special guest tonight I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction. So I first met in 2011 at the Rex Theater.
Oh, that would make sense, yeah.
And you gave me like a sticker and a flyer, and
was that the
added
art?
me on Facebook or MySpace at the time.
Okay.
And we were trying to recruit me.
Yes, into my poor and unfortunate cult that I started a long time ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You told me all about your cult.
Yeah, which I probably didn't tell you much.
No.
Yeah, because it's a cult. It's a good cult,
Right.
lady.
Yes.
Leave them guessing.
Right.
That's the thing.
And so it kept me interested, and I was like, what is this guy doing? And so I've kind of kept along and followed as you've developed into an artist, and
Well, I was an artist too then.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Very much the idea of the cult was about the so a lot of the art that I do is about like the idea of image and how you perceive yourself to the world, and how the world perceives you and thinks back, the communication there.
Yeah.
So the idea of what a cult was that you could make a cult of personality, which is what artists are.
Yeah.
And then if you got enough people to kind of like follow along, then everyone else might think you're nice too. Like that's the whole. A lot of my artwork all revolves around the people. I just want everyone to think I'm okay.
Gotcha.
They want to hang out with me sometimes.
Yeah.
I really don't want them to hang out sometimes, but it's nice.
You want them to want to hang out.
Yeah. It's like
That's
keeping
the
wanting.
goal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Fair.
But that was fun. I'm still doing that.
Yeah.
There was some definite issues that were comical to it that were very correlation with a certain organization that has some centers in like Florida and
Gotcha.
California, really Hollywood Central.
Got it.
Don't want to mention any names, but that was kind of comical. So that was the goal of that was just to get sued by them at some point in time, so
Gotcha.
that they would definitely win because we don't have the money to fight them. But it's good press to have have your cult sued by the other big name cult in the area. So there was a lot of repetitive motions in there and different things. And
Did it ever happen?
No, I never got enough traction for it, and I still am. There's times that there's certain things that are out there that I put out there.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of photographs that feature some of his writings in them and some of the book holdings in them. So I worry that hopefully I'll get sued someday by them. I kind of just want to get sued by them because I'm sure it'd be horrible, but like in a fun way, like a chaos way, I don't know.
Not like a jail time way, but like a cease and desist kind of.
Yeah, I got a
strongly worded letter.
Yeah, I got a cease and desist order one time or a couple times from Disney.
Okay.
When I was in college, and they were deserved. Like they were definitely deserved. I turned some of their imagery into pornography imagery, and just was like, ha, and then they were like, stop it. I was like, okay, because that was like when the first when I was in school was really when like MySpace and everything started kind of like taking off.
Yes.
And Disney were like hawks.
Yeah.
Like they were on it in seconds. Like they had a team of people that would watch things, and they
before
would just,
Google reverse image search.
So they could just and they would find you, and they would go through Facebook accounts and whatever, and if you tagged it and it got tagged enough times, or I don't even know if it was tagging back then or whatever it was.
Yeah.
What characters did you use?
Well, I mean, is this PG or is this?
Well, I haven't even introduced your name yet, so we can warn the audience now.
Yeah. Oh, hi. I'm the Reverend Daisher Rocket. I'm an artist. Live in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. There's Josh.
Brittany.
Sorry, Brittany. I'm bad. I'm terrible with names.
It's okay.
So, but yeah. Bambi.
Oh, okay.
Thumper,
Okay.
the skunk, which I don't remember what the skunk's name was.
Like Pepe Le Pew?
No, not Pepe Le Pew. That's Warner Brothers.
Oh,
Totally. The skunk
okay.
from, it was all the cast of Bambi.
Okay.
And there was a dildo
Oh.
and a sign that said happy, I don't forget what it said. Like something weird. But Thumper was pushing it into Bambi.
Interesting.
Yeah. It was one of those things where I think like we were trying to challenge you stuff. I also one time was involved in a penis drawing contest with my friend. And it was based on who could make the other one not want to see penises anymore. Like,
Got you.
so
But
the one,
it just grew the
oh
hunger more.
yeah, it grew. Yeah. Mine, the winning one was I drew a penis, two penises in a bondage situation where the one penis had a penis, another littler penis on a stick inside the one penis, and the other penis was like, of course, excited about this. And the other penis had like a full-on bra and panties and like this whole thing, and had his balls like hanging on the thing. And on the TV, this is what really freaked him out, was that there was like 5 TVs that all had different scenes of penis porn, of penises doing things to each other.
Got it.
And he was just like, "That's disgusting. I don't want to draw a penis again." So
Got it.
I won. It was nice.
Okay.
Was it just like drawing with like pen?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. It was just drawing it. We didn't do any
mean-
like construction of puppets. But I mean, I was willing to go there if it needed to. And he lived in Philadelphia, so it was like we would mail them
You
to
could
each
do
other.
mixed media if you had
You
to.
mailed them. To
Yeah,
each
so
other.
we'd mail them back and forth. I think is
you
how we
mailed
worked them.
them.
Yeah, I think we mailed them back and forth. We may have not. No, I'll have
I think
to
I like
text him.
that even better.
Text
Yeah,
them.
yeah. All right, did we mail them?
But I mean, you have to be a fairly good character artist to be able to portray the emotions of even these
Eroticism.
stick figure. Yeah,
Did we mail
he's doing it right now.
the penis drawings?
I like that you can hear it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I just got a new phone today, so like I don't know all the buttons.
No, that was a
Well, yeah, it was
theatrical effect.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, no, that was totally planned.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are you guys doing?
Yeah. So we own and operate a printing business.
Okay, how's that going?
Very well.
Good.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm excited. Like every time I see the stuff you're putting out, it always
Thank
looks
you.
really great and stuff like
Appreciate
that. You're getting a lot of business and things.
We
Yeah.
are.
Good.
We're doing better than we ever have,
That's good.
and now it's just the two of us.
That's cool.
So at one point I had like 5 people working, and it was starting to wear me down. We had too many people, not enough. We had a lot of work, but we were just taking on everything that could possibly be taken, and I was really afraid if I let people go and if I didn't take on everything that I wouldn't either I wouldn't have enough work for myself, or I would make people mad and lose customers.
Yeah.
And none of those things happened. We just kind of honed in on what we do well and kind of doubled down. And there has been a couple items that we have taken off our list, but overall, we've been able to maintain between 35 and 75 orders every day.
That's good.
And
Wow,
it's
that's a lot.
just the two of us. So it's pretty amazing. We're a little over 9 years in.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm doing a mural this summer in Greensburg. It's
Great.
like 4,400 square feet.
It's
So
huge.
it's giant. It's one of those things like where so there's I have like these plans for like so the Laurel Highlands Trail, which is like a big walking trail and whatnot.
Yeah, she's a big fan.
Okay, I haven't necessarily got permission from them to do this, or wait, hold on, that's Doug. No, he said no, but we should. Like as regards to the fact that it's I'll finish this conversation later. So we did not mail them. We showed them to each other, maybe via phone. Damn it! I wish I was better at storytelling. All right, I'm gonna have to do that with Doug so I can then add that to the story.
Yeah.
And then not have that problem. But yeah, so I'm working on this huge mural, and it's just part of the Laurel Highlands Trail is there's all these locations around the the Westmoreland County or Allegheny County area that are just like beautifully like empty of stuff. So and one of the buildings is a shop and save. There was 2 shop and saves in town, so I have like 9 or 10 in town Greensburg that I want to do. So that kind of I'm kind of adopting Greensburg as like my own little like Renaissance town, like kind of where I'm just like gonna put as much artwork as they'll let me until someone says stop, and then I'm just gonna move on to another town. Is kind of what the plan is. But the mural is on the side of shop and save, so it's huge, and it's
Got you. And from Shop and Save, you have permission.
yes,
for
yeah,
that.
oh yeah, I get permission for everything most of
Yeah.
the time. And then, I mean, I used to not, but now I do because
Yeah.
I have, I'm 45 and I should probably get permission. I don't want to need to go to jail for something dumb like that.
Yeah. I guess.
But yeah, so that's
Oh,
like
sorry.
Bless you. So that's kind of the thing, and I think one of the goals of the Bureau projects in general is just to kind of inspire awe for people.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I think I do them so huge and like kind of like, oh shit, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have agreed to that. This is a lot of work.
Yeah.
But because I want people to like look at it and then also be like, oh wow, that's pretty great. I want to be able to improve my business, or I want to be able to improve my lawn, or I want to be able
Right.
to not put my trash out front of my house or whatever. Not trying to push a utopian society, but like trying to give people something more exciting to look at when they go
Yeah.
around places. And
I agree with that.
and and it's fun to work with businesses, and the Charlie family, which is the family that owns the shop and save, have been amazing to work with, and they've been really helpful and letting me do what I want to do. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And not being, but also kind of being like, we need to have some aspects of this that we need to be toned in. You
Right.
know, my original idea with them that I pitched was there is a 14th century image from one of the German masters from the Renaissance that is a shop scene, like it's an outside shop scene, and there's like 160 some characters in it, so 160 some different people, and it's
Yeah.
all the way back, and it goes back and has these, and I wanted to put that on this giant wall,
Got it.
and in talking to the family and whatever else, and talking to people, it was a good idea. It's just I think it was too. It was just too much. It was too, it was too big for what they wanted. You know what I mean? So
Got it.
I was able to talk to, and I have Greensburg landmarks being featured in the project. So, and I enjoy doing it. I'm doing my flowers all over it. So I enjoy it, so it's been fun so far. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Had 3 days of rain, which hasn't been helpful.
Gotcha.
Past 3 days have been like raining. Cause like
Yeah,
even
yeah.
today, it rains so much in the morning that you can't really like go there tonight
Yeah.
and work because it's going to be wet and it's going to not, the paint might run and just different things. So I have an overnight plan tomorrow where I'm going to do over 60% of it in one night if I can get
Gotcha.
it right done. So
Yeah.
So wait, what does the Laurel Highlands have to do with it?
nothing really. I just want to.
Oh.
I'm just kind of adopting the Laurel Highlands as my trail
Okay.
idea. So there's also all these breweries in this area too that I've been talking to as many of the brewers that will talk to me, which is a fair amount of them, where I want to put artwork in them. So I also would be in all of those locations, and then I want to start like a dasherology version of the Laurel Highlands, which is just like theirs, but only with just me in it.
Okay.
That's kind of my weird idea about it.
Yeah.
Because I think that there is aspects of things that you can make quirky, fun, of very established things.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of the Laurel Highlands Trail, which has been around for I don't know how long, and they have very traditional marketing, very traditional advertising. They do a great job. I'm not saying they don't, but it's just it's not funny. So like sometimes it's too serious. So I think it'd be funnier if it's just pictures of me standing by a bridge that may or may not be the Laurel Highlands Bridge. So.
I get it.
So when you do murals, like,
Mm-hmm.
how do you plan something like that? Like, do you just look at the wall and you like see the mural on the wall?
Well,
do you know what I mean?
yeah. So this one, it's been like 6 to 8 months planning. So like just kind of just getting things together, and I spent a lot of times like sitting at the wall to see what's the safest time, because it's the biggest issue is that like when you're doing public work like that is people trying to like either not paying attention to what they're doing, or you're not paying attention. You end up getting something on their car or whatever, or they almost hit you with a car because it's a parking lot. So
Yeah.
a lot of research, a lot of talking to the families, just pricing out supplies. And then as I go along, I kind of have a design element that's just this big kind of sketchy drawing. And then if it's detailed work, I need to cast it. I'll use a projector and cast some of it.
Okay.
But a lot of it's just kind of I just kind of like listen to a lot of hip hop and just kind of like freeform it for a while. Like I have different elements that I need to put in.
Yeah.
That like you need to go back and forth to get spacing in. But once I get those things in, the rest of it just kind of jazzy and just kind of grows and like kind of develops on its own.
Yeah.
Like this one of my professors from Seton Hill was Josepha Filkowski. I think was her last name. And she did like pipe sculptures.
Okay.
You know what I mean? She was a modernist and whatever, and she hated me personally. She really hated me. I remember the one time in class, because we did sculpture, and I didn't like tools when it came to clay. I just wanted to use my hands.
Yeah.
I thought that I could do better. And like her very consistent and correct aspect of teaching was that you learn to use tools first, and then you can learn to use your hands. Like it was like it's a matter of skill. And I was like, okay, but I still use my hands. And she'd yell at me and scream at me all the time. So I put her big sculpture that's in the museum in the painting because I thought it'd be nice to pay her homage to her and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
that's there. And that's just, I just really enjoy making things colorful and having people look at it and being like, what the hell's that? And, currently it's at like a weird phase where it's just all blocking.
Yeah.
So it's just like kind of just.
You kind of grid out like a little bit just so you know kind of where.
Yeah,
things
like I
are
have the
placed.
big landmarks in place.
Yeah.
And I have them drawn out fully. So
Yeah.
I have the big landmarks in place, and the rest of it is just kind of fill work and like kind of slapping in color and just different things. So there's a lot of shrubbery and a lot of flowers, which are just represented by just like squiggly lines.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there, Friday was the last day of work because I work on the weekends and then rain and stuff. And everyone kept telling me that I should make those damn kids fix that graffiti that put it on the wall. And I kind of was just like, if I knew a kid that could do graffiti this quickly in this well of a lit parking lot overnight and and not get in trouble, like I would totally let him. I would leave it up because like that's a lot of work. But yeah, no, and that was the thing. Like, so it's at this point where it's very sketchy and very loose looking, and I think that I think it's good to show the process of what it takes to make something like that.
Right.
Because I do that with all my paintings as well.
Right.
And I think that artists are so insulated from the community that they're displaying to because they're in a studio space that's not necessarily always the most inviting.
Yeah.
But when you work in public, you kind of allow yourself to be encouraged by the community, and you have interaction and things like that. A lot of people stop and try to talk to me about what I'm doing and whatnot. I try my best to talk to them. Sometimes it's hard because I have like 2 assistants at times, or I'll have 1 assistant, or honestly, I'm just annoyed that I'm painting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I love to paint, but at that point in time, in that scale,
Yeah.
it's just a
Kinda
lot
got
of
focus on.
Yeah, it's just a
what you're
lot of like just huge blocks of color.
Yeah.
And you're just like, okay. You know what I mean? And the wall doesn't want to take the paint, and it fights with you, and so it's just a whole process. I gave them 2 months to do it, that I was going to do it in, and I'm pretty ahead of schedule right now.
Good.
So with the all-nighter on Thursday, I might be able to pull it off in a month and a half, I'm thinking.
Got you.
And then I have another one scheduled for August, which is at a bike shop, where you remember in Pee Wee Herman, where Flat Tire Bike Shop.
Yeah.
Flat Tire Bike Shop in Greensboro, Pennsylvania. But remember in Pee Wee Herman where he's racing in the Tour de France?
Yeah.
And there's all the Tour de France people behind him, and he's
Yeah.
just sitting there with that goofy ass look on his face on the front.
Yeah.
That's what I'm putting on their wall. So I'm putting that at it'll be like 35 feet high, I think,
Got you.
by the end of it.
Whoa.
So it's going to be this huge Pee Wee Herman. And then I'm giving them like a little spot where when they sell a bike, they have a wall that they take pictures by, and I'm just going to give them a little spot there. And I don't know what I'm going to do there. I might put Pee Wee Herman in there too. I don't know. But we'll see. So it's kind of like the thing of just finding businesses that are agreeable to work with it.
Yeah.
And then also being willing to kind of be conceptually pliable enough to work within the fields that sometimes people are doing. Because it is public art, so it can't just be 10,000 pictures of me, even though that'd be amazing.
Or a bunch of dicks on the wall.
No, I wouldn't put dicks. Everyone always is like, draw dicks on the wall. And it's just like, or I have friends that are tattoo artists, and they're always like, you should, I was hide a penis in a tattoo. And it's just like, get creative. Like, think of something else to do. Like a pair of testicles, or like just the vas deferens system that goes down over the, you know what I mean? That would be amazing. I would get a tattoo of that if I wanted. But yeah.
I love it. So tell me, so before I met you in 2011, give me some backstory, some history. How did you, what were some influences? What led you up to that point, and what kind of drove you to where you decided, this is what I want to do, doing art.
Yeah, I mean, as art wise, I don't think I've ever not done art.
Same.
I think it's just one of those things, like, it's always been part of who I am.
Right.
Graffiti was like a big thing for me when I was young, and still is very much so. And, doing graffiti and being a part of that culture was a lot for me. And I grew up in D.C. in the summers. Okay. I was born in D.C. and my mom moved to Central PA.
Okay.
But would send me to my aunts for the summers because she wanted me to have things like culture and stuff like that. So like I'd go to D.C. and be able to ride they were in Annapolis, but we'd ride into the train station and stuff like that. So I was always obsessed with graffiti. And always have been, and probably always will be. But then I went to, and then it was just kind of like that's what I did. I had an art teacher that was really, really influential in high school, Sue Lemo, who just allowed me to just kind of like take all art classes like one half a semester, where I just spent the whole day in the studio and the art studio just painting on weird shit. And she'd give me some different things and like different experimentations and stuff like that. And I started going to college. I was homeless for a while, so I kind of squatted at a college for a while with my friends.
Yeah.
So then I just went to college. I was done with school at 16, so I went to school at that point.
Got you.
And then as that evolved, my friends and I, we started a guild called the Rocket Guild, which was a very anti-establishment kind of artist movement, kind of based on, there's some French philosopher that's like, he would believe in the principles of poetic terrorism, which was the idea of writing a poem on a brick and throwing it through someone's window. So the idea is that they have to be forced into seeing it.
Got it.
Which is, whatever, it's arrogant in French, but, that's what it is. And so we really, and I think a lot of that inspired, that kind of correlation also went with graffiti for me, because, graffiti is very much about like, I'm just going to put where the hell I want.
Yeah.
If you don't like it,
you
I don't
have
care.
to see it.
Yeah. So that was, the guild was very much about, getting away from the gallery system and fighting that idea. And I still very much follow that idea and putting things in more non-traditional locations like bars and on the street and things like that. I mean, I really don't like to show at galleries. They're boring. You know what I mean? I do have a show in a Columbus gallery, AJ Vanderelli's gallery in Columbus, Ohio, this coming December. Mm-hmm. But it's like the first time I've had a gallery show in a while. I'd rather show at a bar where people can drink and have a good time while they're doing it.
Got it.
But, looking at it, it's not as traditional, it's not as uppity, but it's fine. Like my senior show for college was at a bar.
Got it.
And I had to like do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And then I started doing therapy and like doing, after I graduated high school, after I graduated college, I started doing therapy and stuff like that, and got really into the idea of psychology and the study of psychology.
Okay.
Went back for my master's in art therapy and counseling.
Okay.
And then my thesis for my master's was a book on a comical self-help book on how to go on a date with a woman where there were photographs of me on a date with a mannequin head on a broomstick, and like all the actions of all the stages of dating, because it's like one of the things I very much get very obsessed with is like the rituals of things and like the constant, like there's a science to everything, and you can watch it. And I bartended for so long, I watch it all the time break down, and it's just interesting. Yeah. So that was one of the things. So we did this half-ass, I like to call it half-ass self-help books. Gotcha. And that's kind of where the idea of Dasherology came from. The idea, because he needed a night, he needed a thing. The book author needed a thing to make his book look real. I was already a reverend, because in the Rocket Guild we all changed our names to Rockets, and then we got ordained one day. And I was the only one that kept the reverend, and I married my friends and stuff like that. But that was kind of where it started, and then. At that point in time, the Reverend Daisher Rocket, who is the guy that you met, and that was he was very disheveled. It was his early starting out era where his hair wasn't as kept and his suit was more mismatched. And correct. And if you look at cult leadership and like the history of cult leadership and even the history of like leadership, there are generally that aspect where there's someone starting out and they have like a very much more disheveled. Their message is more diluted. Yeah. And more like kind of less.
Still figuring it out.
Yeah. So that was his period at that time. So then he wrote, that book was a correlation with that. So the suit was mismatched. I looked terrible. The next one is the next book, which was still in that same process. And that was for, do you remember Project 50/50?
I don't.
They were like a local artist group here that did. This is another example of me poorly spending my money, because for one artist show, I think I spent, for one book, because I just wanted one of them. And I don't even know where it's at now. I think my friend Ashley has it. But I paid for like the model, and all these different things. Like I rented the restaurant. I spent like probably $300-400 on this one project for this book that like 2 people read. Yeah. And I just love the jokes in it. Like for me, it's just comical. Like I just love the jokes. In the middle of it, I would load like these little boxes. And they're also, the way it was put together very, very choppily. And very like there's misspellings in it, and there's just different things that I allowed in there. Yeah. Because I thought that they were that level of cult leader wouldn't have an editing team yet. Yeah. So, there's like little world news and reports that like I would say 9 out of 10 girls find a guy that knows kung fu sexy. And and like just different things and like little jokes throughout the whole thing. That was my thesis for college, which made a very interesting discussion. But I passed. So then I made another one, which was how to learn to skateboard and pick up women. It's something like the ancient art of skateboarding and how it helps you get ladies, which, because they're all very much jokey, kind of like 60s kind of effort.
Yeah.
Which that one I just went to a skate park with some guy I met at a skate park, and my friend Sean, who does all my photographs. And I watched him skate, and then I just made weird faces at him. And that's the whole book. And it's basically just me watching this guy skate, and then there's nothing else in it, and it's just facts about skateboarding that I completely made up. Like, did you know that skateboarding was found in ancient Egypt, and they used to put cats on skateboards, and they'd push them down hills? And that's how they thought they were gods, because they'd push them down hills on skateboards. That's made up. But, it looked awesome because it was in a book.
Yeah.
Did that, and then that showed for another Project 50/50 thing, because it was also skateboarding. That one they had, it was a skateboard show where you had to do a skateboard show. Mm-hmm. The first one was mannequin heads.
Got it.
That's why I used the mannequin head. This one's skateboard show, so that counted for that. And then I did a show at New Amsterdam where it was the inappropriate ways to go on a date, but the appropriate ways to go on a date, where I did with this model. And there's just all these photographs of me, like, just doing everything you shouldn't do on a date, like cry and, like, touch yourself. I just, get really drunk. And then there's like little, and they all were printed up as posters. Mm-hmm. And then they were displayed at a bar, and people would just, like, look at them, and I thought they were funny. It made me happy.
Why did you have, like, a dating theme? Is it just because it's, like, a funny thing that a lot of people understand?
Think at that point in time, I think that was, like, structurally what was more so the art that I was doing at that point in time was very much about interaction between two people. Okay. So a lot of the stuff was like robots and Jane Fonda, or robots and, like, old models and stuff like that. Like, there's a lot of still photographs I was using from, like, old Boston space sets. So that robot, which was amazing, was like, they just posed him with people, like, randomly, like, so there's these images of, like, models handing him a phone.
Yeah.
And he's just like, so I did a lot of that. Or Robbie the Robot, which is, like, the best robot ever. So that was like, so those books were also correlation with that, because I think that's one of the fundamental things. And then that evolved out of that in a lot of ways, because it was more about, like, the audience versus just that one-on-one. Mm. So I think the stuff I was doing at that point in time was very much more comically oriented, and just kind of, not that my stuff's not funny now, I hope it's still funny, but it was more shock, like, sight gags and that kind of stuff. So it was more visual art and things. I also did a series where I taught Frankenstein how to go on a date, where I had some guy from the bar named Mark, who was really cool, and my friend Janelle, who was my daughter's babysitter, and now is on the Travel Channel, which is like a weird web of the stuff, but she's on the Travel Channel. Beautiful model, came in from New York City, and I made her go on a date with, like, a 60-year-old Frankenstein who is his little nose was falling off.
Yeah.
And then I'm, like, coaching him from behind, and then eventually I beat him with a crowbar and steal his date. And that's the whole joke, is that. But that's kind of the thing. So that was, like, I guess that's kind of what I'm saying there. Mm-hmm. Does it make sense? Yeah, I think. Yeah. Did I answer your question?
Sure.
I think so.
Okay.
So,
which is weird. I normally don't answer questions.
Well, you came to do an interview, so I'm glad that you're following
I went
through.
So there's podcasts in Greensburg called the 724 Podcast, and I've been on there like 3 times, and it's just my friend Jordan, and I go on there and we talk about what I'm doing in Greensburg and blah blah blah.
Yeah, it's great.
But
check it out. Check it out.
Yes, it's a good show. The first episode I did, I studied all this stuff about Russian czars, like all this stuff, like everything, as much as I could get information about the Russian czars, because I was just ready to just in the middle of the podcast start teaching a lesson about Russian czars, and I had, like, this whole, like, I was working on like tie-ins, and if he asked me a question about this, how I could tie it into the Russian czar facts, and and then we got there, and he was just like, "Please be good," and I was like, and I couldn't use the jokes, so I didn't even get a chance to ever do that. I'm going to do that someday. Maybe with, like, a like, I don't know. I'll find a podcast that's serious, like I don't know. There are serious podcasts.
Yeah.
Like This American Life. I'll do that to Ira Glass. I think he'll get the joke.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm interested. I'll be listening.
Okay. Cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
So what's the like we all have a reason for why we do things a certain way. So you kind of have this, I don't know if slapstick is the right like word for it, but like kind of in your face when you want to, it's provocative.
Yeah.
What do you think drives that? Or how would you define it if you don't define it that way?
I don't know if provocative. I think blunt would be more of what I think it has a lot. I remember in art history class hearing this story about Jackson Pollock was found in the basement by Peggy Guggenheim painting his paintings, and she loved them so much that she like gave him a show the next week or whatever. Or like you hear these stories like Warhol finding Basquiat or Haring or whatever. None of those people are out there anymore. Like if you don't get your art out there, and if you don't make your art different, if you don't make your art unique and noticeable,
yes.
A lot of the colors I use are reflective of like recent trends, and like trends in particular in advertising from winter time. Like the pink I use was barely ever used in advertising, but it's popping up like left and right now. I see it all the time. It's used a lot in like ads. Also like the Tim and Eric kind of aesthetic to things. You know what I mean? Like there's that aspect of just being a little, having the ability to be part of like a culture that didn't have YouTube and everything to be reported, and you try to make people laugh.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's better or worse.
Right.
But it wasn't so much about pushing it out. You were able to hone a joke better. And you also were dumber, I feel, because you didn't care about people finding out about it.
Correct.
But
now we have this social media.
Yes, and everything's so documented, and it's you don't
the fingerprint, the social media fingerprint that the shadow that's gonna follow you forever.
Yeah, I think about the shit I did as a kid, and I'm just like, thank God no one was recording. And that's like, I saw a meme about that today, and I hate to like report, but I was like, yeah, it's true. It doesn't mean that we were like doing terrible things. It's just like it was easier to be dumb back then
and embarrassing.
Yes, and it was also easier to get away with shit back then too.
Correct.
Like you could, because there wasn't cameras everywhere,
Right.
and there wasn't like a constant like ATM machine creeping around the corner. Not all the cameras on the street had. You could do like a tag.
Yeah.
And you could do like 10 tags down a street that you knew a street that wasn't covered or had like low lighting or had like old people sleeping on the street, and you could go down that street and just hit it.
Right.
And you didn't have to worry about like 18 cameras every angle.
Right.
Or like the fact that somebody has a cell phone, it's recording you doing it, and it's going to post it on social media, and then the cops are now going to have a timestamp, a signature, and a location of where you were on someone else's post that they can openly access to.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's like, damn. So it's not as, it'd be more aware, I guess, now than I was before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very interesting. So
I don't know if I answered your question though.
No, it does. And I think that's a key point too. So I tell people, whether it's with a new business that they're starting or as an artist or musician, whatever it is, I call it like you have to have an edge. Like what's the reason that you are doing what you're doing and what makes you different? Why should people be interested? And you kind of described that perfectly yourself when you were talking about, you had these people that were kind of the rock stars, and then they would discover the next person and try to pull them up, and we don't have that anymore. So it's very important to develop what makes you different and why you kind of create this.
Well, and I think any artist that doesn't have a consistent visual language with the audience that they're trying to have view the work are doing themselves a disservice.
I agree. Yes.
I think that I think there are aspects. I think that's one of the things too. I think in art schools they're not teaching you that.
Right.
I think in art schools they're teaching you the fundamentals of making art, which is great for the first 2 years.
Yes.
The last 2 years should be, hey, here's a bunch of gallery owners, you should go talk to them. And like because even the internship program, like they're going to practically learn arts. They're not learning the difference. Correct. Because the art community it's a competitive environment.
Yeah.
And it's full of people that are just out to like just kind of take advantage of you. You know what I mean? And there's so many different shows that it's like pay for play shows or it's whatever. And there's so very few locations that are willing to show places, willing to show local artists. And if they are willing to show local artists, they already have a lexicon of local artists that they're willing to do. And like the graffiti culture, there's a clique there. There's like just these different things. And I think that if you don't separate yourself from that in whatever way you can, then you become very mediocre in what you're producing.
Yeah.
And then your communication with who you're talking to suffers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If that makes sense?
Yeah.
That's my new thing. That makes sense. If that makes sense. My new go-to filler. I try not to do like anymore.
Yeah.
But I think I've probably been doing like a lot here.
Got you. I read once, and I try to use it in practical ways, but did I put that in a way that's easy to understand?
Mm-hmm.
So changing it so that it puts it on you, even though it's a little bit wordy,
Mm-hmm.
putting it on you instead of like, do you understand? And that puts it on the person that's listening. So did I put it in a way that's easy to understand?
Well, it's like
it gives them more of an opportunity.
It's like an
to
old
say
therapy
no.
trick.
Yeah.
So like a therapist is whatever you're reflecting on what a person has done or has stated in therapy, you're not supposed to say, you said. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to say, well, what I'm hearing you saying is blah 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 blah, or what I heard was you know what I mean,
right?
And that way it makes that separation between the two, and then the person doesn't get affected. You're also not supposed to say why in therapy, which I don't understand, because there's just times where you're like, why is the only thing that you need, like, why did you do that? You know what I mean? Like, but I understand it depends on how you say it.
Correct.
Yeah,
I love it.
But yeah, so that was the thing. And then I think that's, as my art has developed during pandemic, pandemic was a glorious socialist era where everybody could do what they wanted, and, could kind of had, there was a lot of issues with it otherwise, but I was very much a lucky one where my bar that I worked at were very up and up, and I was able to file for employment. My employers, Mr. Toads, if they ever problems, they called for me. Like they would call this, they were very. It's also because we're a very close-knit family. I've worked there for a very long time, and they're good people, and it's just whatever, So I was very lucky to be able to have that support and that stability during the pandemic. And then I had my studio, and I just spent a lot of pandemic really like researching Renaissance art, researching like those masters and that kind of idea. Yeah. And for a show that I was doing at the Thought Robber Gallery, which I just did, just retellings of classical paintings with myself as every person in the painting. Mm. And that is part of what I like to refer to as indoctrination, in regards to the fact that like these are historical images, and if I replace myself in the images, then if you have a positive reflection of that image when you see it without me in it, but you've seen the one with me, and then you might say, oh, he's a nice guy. Mm-hmm. That's the whole theory of it. Gotcha. And also they're really funny. Yeah. Like some of them are really funny. Like there's one where I'm poking there's a German painter, 1500s, where there's two topless women and they're pinching each other's nipples. And they're just kind of like daintily sitting there and just like, So there's a painting of me that's my friend bought. I think it's in her house, and it's with me with two very nice sets of breasts too, like pinching myself.
So two of
me facing in the same posturing and post, just me with beards and just everything with great, of course, abnormally large, because it's just funnier. You're gonna, it's just you take it to that level. It wasn't a sexist thing. It was just they're funnier. And it's funnier because the nipple, But yeah, that's the one painting I did. And then I did like, so that's when I started putting myself into everything. So I did like the Botticellis, which were like the Botticelli of Birth of Venus, where I did myself with that. I did the Birth of Adam with myself with a giant penis and the biggest ball throw I've ever done in my life. And what the joke of that was, and that's the thing, all of them have a joke. The joke of that one was whenever I stood by it, and if someone asked about it, I went, yeah, it's hyperrealism. And then I moved my crotch a little bit just to kind of like, because it was funny, because there's a giant penis, No one ever asked me in front of the painting. Sucks. I had
Did you always do like self-portraits?
Well, I mean, I've always put myself in things. I think a lot of times when I was painting Robbie the Robot, it was very much a self-portrait. That was always the character I used before. He was always in something I did. So I think in regards to the fact that like Woody Allen films, which is not, but he's always in his movies. I've always been kind of an aspect of something in there. The idea of the self-portrait currently is, in a lot of examples in Renaissance, and even, a lot of the great masters, they did a lot of self-portraits of themselves. Caravaggio was known to do that over and over again, and that's kind of where that started. And then like Rodin did it, Rockwell, and Botticelli used himself, Raphael used himself, Da Vinci used himself, and they would use, in reference to the fact because it's what they had available. So, and a lot of, for me too, it's an aspect of like, I want to pay models to do And again, they're just really funny.
Yeah.
And it makes me laugh. Like currently for the show in Columbus.
Like your face on like Mona Lisa's.
I do. No, actually I have one. So a while ago I did paintings where I redid. So I broke all the old paintings down to flat color fields and just basically made them paint by numbers. But then I put myself in them doing something. So like in The Death of Socrates, that David painting where he's like on the thing holding his cup up in the air. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
I think so.
I'm just standing back there like, and then in Mona Lisa, I'm behind her yelling at her because she's looking weird. The one Caravaggio with the boy holding the fruit, I'm pulling a fruit out of the thing in the background, and they're made to be like thrift store like retouch paintings, but they're all original masters with whatever.
One of the artists that she gets a lot of prints from us. It's her like in the painting, and I was like, Josh, like this is her, and he was like, really? And I was like, it looks just like her. Like so when the next time she came in, and I was like, hey, is that you like in your art? She was like, yeah, and I was like, I knew it.
And I think mine, because all my art is also very flat and cartoony, and it's very much about like layers of color and the development. So the way I use the system, I like my paintings would actually, you could cast a light behind them and they would shine like I say they will shine like a stained glass window. If you got a bright enough light, you'd have to get a really bright light. But so if you could see through them, they would look like a stained glass window. And you know that like that different, when you look through stained glass, it has that different like kind of sheens of color throughout the whole thing. So that's basically what's happening with the painting. Your eye reads them when you look at them. Yeah. So you see them as flat, but you know there's something with the color that gives it dimension and shape. So those are typically done with like multiple layers with sanding in between, and just kind of over and over again. And those ones for the Thought Barber show are now all at a bar. Because that's really when I painted them with the idea of I wanted to format a bar with these giant like stained glass paintings of me doing just dumb shit. And that's the thing. And they're all kind of comical too, because it's always like something's going on in the background, or like the flowers are little skulls, and these different like aspects of thing, and just colorization. And they're also just kind of funny because everybody's me. Now for the show in Columbus, I was continuing my research with Botticelli, and just because I think he's just really he was like definitely on something, and because he's just wacky. Like his paintings are just like the creatures in the backgrounds, the way he forms bodies. It's just very very much about what I'm doing. But he also did like anywhere from 150 to like 170 mothers and childs. So for different churches in this one area. So I'm and there's like 70 left. My numbers are a little weird, but there's a significant amount less left. Some of them were destroyed before the war. A lot of them were destroyed in World War II because they were just in a particular area that was just heavily bombed. But out of those ones for the show in Columbus, I plan to redo all of them with me as every character in them. So like I have one where like I said, again, Botticelli was pretty wacky. And he has this one where like the milk is squirting out, like this breast is here and the baby's like this, and it has its mouth open. It's like a good pose. And it's so there's a painting of me with my breast out, with milk pouring out into my own mouth, which baby version of me. So and then there's myself as Saint Peter, and myself as John the Baptist beside watching it in all homage. And like little books, and like in the little books I put like quotes from like really bad rap songs, like or like the one I want to do the wet ass pussy. So not the wet ass. What's the boys to your yard? The milkshake.
Yeah.
I want to do the quote of milk. That's actually, I'm gonna write that down. The milkshake quote.
Well, now you can listen
back
to
this.
this
Podcast.
Well, I don't know if you heard, but Bill Murray and her, the artist of that song, allegedly are dating.
Who?
Bill Murray.
And the wet ass pussy one?
No,
or
milkshake.
The milkshake.
Which is Fergie?
No.
Kellis or Khalees?
Oh.
I forget what her name. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
how old's Bill Murray?
I don't know, like 70s.
He has to be
up there.
Yeah, and how old is she?
45.
Okay, all right. Okay, so it's not that bad.
It's
not like
there's
she's
a
like
gap. They both
Yeah.
they both had life partners that had passed away in the last year.
Oh, okay.
That was
All right.
that was the way that they connected.
Bill Murray's one of those
Okay.
ones I worry that he's going to get something's going to come up from him, like somewhere from like the cancel culture thing, and I'm just
I
like,
think there is something right now. I
Yeah,
just saw
yeah.
Wes Anderson said that he's gonna do another movie with him despite allegations.
okay, because what is it now? Is it he's? I mean, I'm sure he's a dick. Like they're all dicks in some way, and I always
especially.
swear-
I mean, if you're 80
yeah,
and like
Yeah.
you grew up in a very different time,
Yes.
what is acceptable in your head and what's
and they're
actually acceptable?
comedians. So like, that's the thing. Like he's basically a stand-up. I'm not. I hope it's not something terrible. Like I'm not trying. If it's something terrible, I don't want to defend it. But like if it's just a joke, it's like, oh come on, it was a long time ago.
right.
Like you think about. I hear a lot of times I listen to a podcast with comedians, and they talk about Carlin, like George Carlin. It's like
Yeah.
he was this pinnacle of like, and they say like, could he have happened now?
Right.
And I mean I think Carlin was smart enough that he could have made the jokes that would have worked.
Yeah.
Now.
We just watched Tommy Boy the other night,
Mm-hmm.
and like
With David Spade and
Yeah.
Yes,
and,
it's a
and
good
yeah,
movie.
Chris Farley, and I mean that was like the late '90s,
Mm-hmm.
I think, and like it says like the R word in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just like so bizarre, like how that just wouldn't fly today, how different it would be.
But then again, I don't think they could make a movie like Tommy Boy today.
yeah,
Like I don't think that. I think people would not. Well, I think it would do terrible, like in general. I just don't think there's that like, and I just don't think. I don't think people have the time or patience to sit through a movie like
but
that.
Tommy Boy, like I just thought about it now. It's in a way similar to Billy Madison. It's just like a rich son.
Yeah,
doing
like
silly
yeah. Well,
things.
it's. I mean, Taming of the what's the Shakespeare one where it's a rich guy going out and finding. They're all based, and storytelling in the same rate is all the same thing over and over again. It just depends on who you look what show lens you look through it at.
Right.
But like, rich boy becomes pauper or whatever kind of thing, But
Yeah.
I don't even Billy Madison. I don't think could be made.
Oh no.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you would hope it could because it's not that bad.
But it's still funny if you watch it today.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like,
But like I mean, I watched Zoolander with my son who just turned 9, and I had to be like, "Hey, that part's not like we don't say that anymore."
Did they say the R word?
I think that might have been one of them. I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah.
I'm not good with that kind of stuff, but
Yeah.
I remember having to like pause it a few times and being like, "Hey, don't say this at school," or
Yeah.
like and kind of give a little backstory of like, just
Yeah.
there's where I didn't get that too much growing up. Like it's not like when you're in the 90s, no one was telling me that something that we watched that was from the 70s was like inappropriate.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
You
you
know
think
what I
about
mean?
like All in the Family.
Right.
I mean, All in the Family was network television, and it was like borderline racist, like straight up racist at one point in time. It was very much. There was. I was actually listening to an NPR show about this. They were talking about this idea that like people aren't funny anymore, people don't have to work, is like a constant, ongoing panic thread that they use again and again in media. So there's like, and they were just giving examples of like how often it happens, and it's like every decade, generally speaking.
Yeah.
At some point in time, there's some. And there's like the guy that said there's like some correlation between years. Like sometimes it's like mid, it's always like in the middle. It's never in like the beginning. It's never at the end. It's always like in the middle of a decade. But there's always like these ongoing statements of like, nobody wants to work anymore. Nobody thinks things are funny. Or what's in my day, everything was, and it's this idea of this hearkening back to that idea of what perfection was for them and what perfection is. There's this general like Jungian archetype of perfection that everybody wants to strive to. And you can't get there. And we just constantly go back to that idea that it's everyone else's fault whenever it's just
Right.
the fact that it's just not there.
I mean, as things develop, I mean, you think of like the Chappelle Show. Obviously, that was gold. And then, Key and Peele. And like they develop in a different way. And they have like you can watch it and you're laughing the whole time. It's not like you can't make comedy anymore. It's just that the times have changed.
Yeah,
and
you just have to.
the storytelling is different, and the subject matters are different. You gotta keep up with the times and kind of format it in a different way so that it will.
And I think jokes are different. I think the way people tell jokes are different because I think with the invention of like just different social media and like Vine and just the quickness of everything there is now. Yeah. Like you can't tell. Like if you look at Pete Davidson, he doesn't do story jokes.
Right.
Like he's not doing like he's doing like set punchline. You know,
correct.
quick. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what you have to do now because that's like the way people want jokes. They don't want knock jokes. They want like it's just dad jokes basically is a lot of what they are because they're just set up punchline.
Correct.
And I, for myself, artistically and I think also comedically, if that's anything, I like the long joke.
Yes.
I like the
Me
long.
too. A callback. I love a good callback.
I love long form practical jokes too. Like I think it's the best way to do things. I think if you can do a practical joke that happens to someone that like I used to whenever I was a kid, I used to do what I would call an egg trick. It's where you take a raw chicken egg and vegans, and you dip it in wax.
Okay.
And you seal it all the way, and then you put it in a heating area, like whether under a couch or you open up their vent and you put it in there. Now that egg will be sealed while that egg rots inside. It stays sealed inside that wax, and then in 3 to 6 months or however long it takes, it will break open, and then your whole house will smell like rotten eggs for about 10 days. And then no one ever knows where it comes from because it's not, and it's like the best practical joke ever. I think. Yeah. It takes time. I would never do it to anybody. I've only done it to a few people, and all of them deserved it completely.
Got you.
Yeah. I did to my school one time.
There's this show on Netflix, I think it was called I'm Sorry, and her husband did a joke like that took like months. It was like months in the making. She hated this tank top that he would wear, and like he would be in like the background of pictures like wearing this tank top at their daughter's school, and she's like, why are you wearing that tank top? Like just so mad every time. And then she's like, okay, I'm gonna get you back. When they went out to their like anniversary dinner, she wore like her sleep jammy shirt with like holes in it, like, and it was a fancy restaurant. And she took her jacket off, like, okay, so we're doing this. We're wearing things that each other hates. And he like made this video, and it was like explaining like, I know how much you fucking hate my tank top, and this was like this whole like joke, and it was just so hilarious. She was like, I love you so much right now, and I'm so embarrassed that I'm wearing this right now.
That's like the thing. I think a long joke is truly the best way to do a joke, and I think that's like
you have to be committed.
Yeah, and you have to be willing to sell the joke.
And if it doesn't land, it's still funny to you and it's worthwhile.
That's half the time for me. That's all that matters. Like if I'm giggling at some point in time, and I think it's a lot of times with my paintings too. Like I put stuff in them that I just think are hilarious. Yeah. And no one else does, and I don't care because I think it's hilarious, and I'll laugh my ass off whenever I look at them.
But I think depending on how you do and how interested people will be in the future, I think that those jokes could continue landing for years to come.
Yes, yeah.
So
I hope so.
That's the goal. Yeah. I think that's the end game is to. I mean, people are still going through boxes of, Warhol's stuff in the archives, and
I should be better at
he just
that stuff.
Put dirty underwear in there, and he's laughing at the fact that someone is going through and picking it out and cataloging it, and it's an ongoing joke, I feel.
So at one point I moved my studio from my one location in Greensburg to I have a bigger space now in Jeanette, and which is just another town. But it's huge. The space I have is huge. But I moved all my stuff, and in the process of moving all my stuff, I was like going through the boxes of see things. And like, there's 100% stuff in there that I put in there I was like, that will be funny someday. Yeah. Like I'll find this someday and just laugh. And there was like, I found pieces of paper. I had little things I wrote down on them. And it's just like a matter of keeping these things in boxes. Yeah. And I remember multiple times when I was married that I would get yelled at a lot for the fact that I didn't need to keep every single thing that I ever owned. Mm-hmm. And then I need to, put things away, and I need to throw stuff away. And no, you don't. You just need to find more space or better boxes to put things in. But I've just some of the stuff I found. Like I have multiple wrestling masks that I don't know why I had them, but I have a box of wrestling masks, at least 4. Yeah. And I'm just trying to think like, did I have them for like some sort of wrestling prank I was going to do, or did I just find a really good deal on wrestling masks and I bought them, or did I find them? And I'm thinking. So now I have to.
No, I was in Mexico a few years after like Nacho Libre came out. Mm-hmm. And there were the street vendors all had a bunch of like wrestling masks. I remember getting a couple, just like, so maybe I mean,
Yeah,
I don't have them anymore, but it was a thing.
Yeah, I have
It
one.
was a thing a long time ago.
I have 4 of them, and all of them are like too small for my head.
I never wore them. It was just.
I
thing.
definitely have worn them. These all been worn. I also have a gorilla mask.
She gave me some side eye.
I have a giant panda head.
Yeah.
That I don't know when I'm going to ever do.
Like
a
it's a
costume.
Anthrocon furry.
No.
Okay.
No, but I do have access to a full on rabbit suit, like a full on like Easter bunny rabbit suit that there's 100% photos of me in a pool in.
And you have your own persona.
Yes. Well, yeah. I don't know about that. But I have
he has his own persona with or without the
love
just random
the
shit. There's just no, they're great.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I want to be. It's just not. I don't know.
It's a
Because
different
it's
art.
hot.
So hot. It's like the hottest weekend of the year.
And those things pass, like those suits, like I could almost pass out of them
Yeah.
every time I put one on. But I have a big panda head that sometimes will hotbox. But it's just this
nice.
giant panda head that like sits there at night, and I don't know where I got it at. I don't know if someone gave it to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I also have a gorilla mask. I have a bunch of weird shit.
I went to a bachelorette weekend in Put-in-Bay, and this
Which
was
is
like
in Ohio?
Yeah, it was pre-COVID. Okay, so we're at this big pool party, and there's a bachelor party there, and they had like an animal head like that, and I'm obsessed with furries, and I was like, let me put it on, and it was so wet inside,
Yeah.
like. And just thinking about the gross things that you used to do, like before 2020, you know what I mean? But
Ugh. Ugh.
and I'm like, how many heads were in? What else? What other body parts were
Well,
in here?
hopefully not a lot.
Yeah,
But I mean, Put-in-Bay is a weird area.
it's very weird,
It's just it's strange.
but
Like,
it's
just-
fun. You only drive golf carts.
I know it's but it's like a casino resort. There's not a casino, but it's like the Key West of Ohio.
It's in Ohio. You take a ferry to it.
Yeah, and
It's very bizarre.
it's Ohio.
Yeah, I know.
There's not a lot in
We
Ohio.
love P-Bay. I've been a few times.
I got arrested for federal drug trafficking charges in Ohio one time because I got pulled over, and I had Adderall in my bag in an Altoids tin. When I used to work rock and roll stuff, I never carried my pill balls around with me because they would get stolen. So I put it in an Altoid tin and carry it in your pocket. Very easy to do. You can pull it out. It doesn't worry about. And this the officer found 7 of them, said it was above daily usage. So and like found my weed pen and a joint I had rolled and like maybe half ounce of weed. Didn't say anything about any of that stuff. Didn't say anything about anything. And was like, okay, I'll see you. Okay, thank you. And I was just like, oh wow, my friends are with me, and we went to Detroit to see Electric Wizard. Well, on our way back, I had to go to work. So I was asleep in the back when the cop showed up, and I jumped out, whatever. So then 6 months later, I get this notice from a federal courthouse in Ohio, Cleveland's like the main courthouse, and I'm like, and I have to be there, and like, and I was like, what? And you can't like call.
Right. You just have to show up.
You just have to show up, and if you don't show up, it's a big deal.
Right.
So I kind of figure out what it was. So I decided to go to my doctor, and I got a copy of my script, and I went, and like the lady ahead of me was like there because she was like torturing dogs or something like that, and like the guy behind me was like robbery, and like everyone in this line were all very serious criminals, and and there's me with 7 Adderalls in an Altoids tin being charged with like federal drug trafficking charges, and I handed the judge my script, and he was like, well, how do you want to plead? And I'm like, I don't, and I was just like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And he's like, you need an attorney. And I was like, yes. And he goes, well, then we're going to process you and let you. And I was like, wait, no, I don't. And he was like, just trust us. And I was like, no. And I was like, no. I like, what the hell,
Yeah.
And I went and I got sent back to the back, and I was getting ready to get fingerprinted because I got arrested. And I was sitting there, and there's this guy in the room with me, and I was just like, hey, dude. And he's like, I go, what the fuck's going on? And he was just like, dude, you're in jail. He's like, this is federal prison. Like, he's like, you're, and I'm like, what? And he was like, yeah. He goes, man, I was just like, oh, cool. And they fingerprinted me, eventually let me go. Then had to go back a second time. It turns out that I was a little bit mouthy with the cop over the fact that he took my Adderall from me. And I was just like, hey, it's my Adderall. Like, give it back to me. I have a script for that. Like, fuck you. And he, so he was very, very present on like, that I did something wrong. So
was he there to like?
Yeah, he showed up to every one of the hearings.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the second time I met my attorney thought I was like some like the way the report was written, it looked like I had like a lot of drugs, trafficking a lot of drugs. And he was like, how much did you have with you? And I was like, I think like 7 or maybe 10 pills. And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, because this says that you like trafficked.
Yeah.
I'm like, no, man, no. And he was like, all right. So the second time he went in, and the judge or the cop refused to drop the charges. Like they had a script, they had a pill bottle, they had all this stuff, and he was just like, no, there's something else going on here. So I had to come back a third time, and this is the punchline of the story. Third time went through, judge dismissed it. Finally, the cop was just like, he's like, listen, there's nothing wrong here, whatever. Attorney comes out and tells me, and he goes, it was like 7 a.m. I had to be there, and it was super early, and he said to me, he goes, the museum in Cleveland's really amazing. I have some tickets for you. You can go to the museum. And I was like, oh, awesome, cool. So like I drove over to the museum, and I got in line, and I was waiting. I was standing at the thing, and I handed the lady the tickets, and she goes, the museum's free. And I was like, motherfucker. And I'm holding these tickets, and I'm just like, do I get anything? And it turns out that they were like from like an event.
Yeah.
That they were just tickets. You don't need tickets to go to the museum. And I was just like, and she's like, yeah, I don't know who would have given this to you. You never need tickets. And I was like, God damn. He thought I was all thankful. I was like, oh, thank you. This is awesome.
That's a lot of driving to Cleveland.
Yeah. I was like really thankful for my attorney, and they were free tickets. I was like, ah. But yeah, it was 3 times. Mm-hmm. And that was like one of the third arguments in the thing was that this is the 3rd time I'm coming. I remember looking at my attorney. I'm like, I'm not coming back here. I'm like, I just won't come back to Ohio again. Mm-hmm. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm telling you, I'll just avoid Ohio. Because like I'm figuring, but then it was the federal thing.
Yeah.
They could have came and got me.
Correct.
What got him to say federal was that we told him I was going from Detroit to Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So he said that you were crossing interstate lines.
Yeah.
And he didn't say anything about like other stuff. It was just very comical.
But what if you had the pill? Like, what if you had a week of like a pill thing and you had 1 Adderall in each one?
I think that would have been fine.
That's so weird.
I think the fact that I had it in a case, in a case it wasn't marked that it had it, and I didn't have a pill bottle with me, which was I just never carried a pill bottle with me because like they get stolen. Yeah. People know what Adderall is, and they just like look at it and go, oh, cool, and it's like. Right. My insurance isn't going to be like, oh, we understand it's been stolen. Let me re-up that for you. You know what I mean? Right. So, so it just was how it was, and it was comical. It was very funny, but yeah. But I saw the Caravaggio. They have a couple Caravaggios there, a couple Botticellis there. Very beautiful.
Nice.
For free. And you can go to the museum for free. Don't let anybody tell you they're not free. Because if this like is an ongoing scam in Cleveland, that everyone that like is. Like, if you go meet a construction company in Cleveland, do they hand you tickets to the museum and tell you to go? And it turns out that it's just free. And this is just the way, like, this is an ongoing thing that all businesses in Cleveland are just pretending.
I think it might just be that guy. That's his joke. That's his, he's a, attorney. Yeah. But at the same time, he's, like, printed up 1,000 tickets, and it's just funny for him.
Oh, that is funny.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I hope that's what it is. I would have keep
that. That's where my mind goes.
Yeah.
Because, like...
Yeah, that he like purposely and he just does that to everybody as like a joke, just because he wants people to go to the museum.
Yeah.
But then
I feel like attorneys aren't that funny though.
But yeah,
there has to be funny attorneys. Yeah. I mean, sure. I feel that when they are funny, it's a lot longer words.
Mm.
Yeah.
Because they're attorneys and they talk to a lot.
Yeah. I have a question.
Okay.
So you said you have a daughter. I don't know if you have any other kids.
No.
But I'm curious. If your art changed, because usually like when you become a parent, it changes you as a person. Did your art change? Like, do you notice anything different from your art, like pre-being a parent to being after being a parent?
I think just development. I think there was a lot more time. Sure, there was aspects of it that were affected. I mean, just in general, just being a parent, there's aspects of life that's affected. I don't know if aesthetically necessarily if anything was changed.
Okay.
I know there was some different usages of color because of just my daughter's autism, so she's not really. It's one of those things like she knows what I do, and she doesn't really. She's like, okay, cool, Dad. You know what I mean? So there's not really like I don't want to say not an investment, but there's but yeah, I mean there was some. I think the development of the ideas were more, where I was allowed to be more long term on them. In regards to the fact that helped kind of slow down. Like, my biggest thing was I've always been productive. Like, I was trained as a printmaker, so to me, product is all that you have to show. So if you have 150 prints, you need to do 150 prints. And it's like, and that's just the way it's like a working kind of thing. And I think that in one way, in some ways affected like my ability to like really concisely come up with an idea that wasn't so scattered and kind of just muttered and not accessible. So I think that having the ability to take the time to not have to worry about, because I really didn't show a lot for probably the first 10 years of her life. I kind of just worked in my studio because she was young, you know, I had a lot of kid stuff to do, and, you know, I just didn't have a chance to show. And then I started doing the live paintings with like the Art All Night thing. And I think I was one of the first people that did that. I'm going to still say that. And, you know, then I did the art battles with New Amsterdam when they had it, when Ryan was doing that. And then did stuff with Fee Gallery for a while. And then just kind of slowly and it's always been, my issue, Pittsburgh is always such a hard area for me to show in. Because I don't do work that's sports related a lot of times. And I'm also not really very good at kissing ass at things. So I'm not real great at like going into a gallery and kind of being
like schmoozy.
Yeah, I'm not going to schmooze you. That's, you know, I've always said that I need a manager, just so someone that can do the schmoozing for me and I don't have to do it. I'm getting better at that though. But that's always been my issue with Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is very cliquey art-wise, and it's always been very cliquey. And I think it's getting better, but I think it's just because, you know, Carnegie Mellon's here. There are highbrow artists that are coming out of that community that are staying around, and they're keeping that kind of separation aspect to the art there. Remember when Lobster Boy was here? There was a guy that like pretended he was a lobster.
That sounds vaguely familiar.
And it just was like, I sit at the bar and I'll talk to people about like stuff like that, and they're just like, "What the fuck?" And it's just like, "Yeah, no, really, what the fuck? Like, why is he? You know, I'm sure he had some very long thesis. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, whatever. But like, it's just kind of like, what are you doing, dude? Like, no one's gonna walk up and talk to you about that because you're acting like a lobster, or maybe they will. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, well, I think it might have went well for him. I don't know.
He's not still doing it though.
But how long can you be like? I mean,
right.
Well, technically, lobsters are supposed to be immortal. They say.
They could be.
Wait, he pretended to be a lobster?
He would dress in all like pink, like red and pink, and like had claws, I think. And like
so
when I first read that, I thought he was like a circus guy, which I was all about that.
But
like
this was like a daily.
This was like a dude. It's part of his. I don't know if it was part of his thesis or whatever, but yeah, he was just dressed like that.
Yeah.
But now we have like Raymer and, you know, and just, you know, Matt was here at one point in time, and Spar and, you know, Coronado Tacos and just different things around here. And those are showing good examples of that art world, that elitist art world that was very prominent in Pittsburgh in the 90s and early 80s.
Yeah.
Is starting to get kind of diffused.
Yeah.
And it's becoming more like, you know, Matt's doing every Coronado Taco. That's fucking amazing. I mean, and it's like, you know, and I remember like we did the art battle with Matt. I did the first art battle, I think it was the first or second one at New Amsterdam with him and Danny. And, who's the other guy that does tattoos now on the south side? But I legitimately remember looking at Matt and being like, I'm going to fucking lose. Like, I didn't care. Like, it was between, you know, and I was like, it was Danny and Matt, and it was a live art painting. I knew full well at that point in time they were fundamentally better artists than I was. Right. You know what I mean? And I was okay with that. Yeah. And I think I got 2 votes. And I was okay with also just getting 2 votes. Because it was just like, that was like I was so far behind the next person that there was 2 votes in my thing, and everyone else had like 150. You know what I mean? So it was like that, and
just to be on the stage with them is fun.
There's a chance.
Yeah, and that's like the thing, and it's to say it's a chance, and then, you know, and I think that was kind of really whenever I started like thinking about how, as an artist, it's important for the artist to be more communicative with the crowd that he's involved in, or with the audience that's viewing his work. Right. So I started doing a lot more live stuff at that point in time, and I did the Art All Nights the couple years in a row. The one year I did the Art All Night where I tried to retell Greek myths with random people that they gave me to sign up for, which turned out okay. Like I met Sam from the Ketchup City thing there. Okay. Sam Thorpe, I think is her last name. There's no Sam. A couple other people, just different people here and there working with them. Made some good connections, and I love the Art All Night community. And then I did a 24-hour painting marathon there one year, which was really too much. And that was like kind of along the lines of, again, that was all just with spray paint and with just donated products and stuff like that. And it was about pushing the idea of just like how an artist works and like, come watch me do that for a long time. And I kind of just moved away from doing that stuff with them because they had their own like kind of, they have now like the live art is very much part of their whole
They changed
thing.
the format a little bit.
Yeah. So now it's like very much featured, and I'm like, knock yourself out. I don't want to. I'm too much of an egomaniac where I want a bigger wall than everyone else. You know what I mean? So I'm okay with sharing, but I'm also like, that wall's bigger. I want that one.
Right.
And the one year that Danny and I did, we did an Art All Night banner at the Iron City Brewery, and I mean, it was huge, but it was Danny and I doing it, and it was just like, and it was huge.
Is that Danny Devine?
Yeah, yeah, and it was huge, and I mean, and he did amazing work, and I was doing two things at once, and working down there with the people making myth, and then doing this, and it was just like, it was great to do it. It was fun, but then there was just this aspect of like, it's a lot of like work that I don't think anyone's knowing how to buy my artwork or find my artwork other than just random live stuff. And I think it's one of the things that's as an urban artist, wherever you struggle with, is like, how do you get your artwork out there?
Correct.
And then just kind of moved on because they got their own kind of thing going, and they do a lot of really amazing stuff. I've been doing it a while, but I think the last one I did was at the old factory, like the one down on the river.
Okay.
No, the last one I did was at the Iron City Brewery.
Got it.
Because then because they let me tour beforehand, and I got to climb through the conveyor belts of the Iron City Brewery until someone told me to stop.
Like the OG, like
we were in the one down on the south side, or was it South? Well, what's that called? Lawrenceville.
The Strip.
Yeah, Strip.
The Strip. Yeah.
And there's like all the conveyor belts were there. It was before they did, and I was up in all those conveyor belts, just like fucking scrambling around. I got stuck a couple times. I was definitely like a little worried I wasn't gonna get out of there. But it was a great time. And we did that there, and that was fun. I don't know where they do it anymore. No, do they still do it? I know they did this past year. Art All Night.
Yeah. It was down at 31st Street Studios.
Okay.
They kind of jump around a little bit, but they've been in the Lawrenceville.
Yeah, it's always been Lawrenceville. It's always been Lawrenceville.
Yeah.
So yeah, but that was fun. That's always a good organization to work with.
Right.
So
I love it.
Butt's falling asleep.
You're good. Well, I wanted to close with this. Basically, thank you for being here, being on, and I'd love to have you back.
Sure.
At some point,
Maybe you guys could come to the studio in Jeanette and hang out.
Yeah, I'm
and
interested.
Look at my weird stuff.
Gotcha.
I'll give you a tour of my studio. I built a bar there.
Okay.
It's nice.
All right. I'd love to check that out. And I want to go over kind of like where people can find you. Speaking on the note of when you are
being a better marketer.
Yeah.
So this is the thing about I always like whenever I call a gallery, I talk to them, and the first thing I say is like, I want you to understand I'm a terrible artist. Like I will forget to call you back. I will forget to tell people that I have artwork here because I just. Would you have time for one more story?
Go ahead.
Okay. I had a solo show at the Wizard of Oddities Gallery in Lawrenceville, which ended badly, but it was one of those things. I had a solo show where I decided I was going to have an up-to-date retrospective of everything I ever made.
Okay.
So I had everything I've ever made in this thing. It was overwhelming. It was really too much. It was not a successful show because it just was too much stuff.
Gotcha.
I had clotheslines going across with prints on them, just hanging on clothespins because I wanted it to be everything.
Yeah.
You couldn't really move around the place without like running into something. Like that's how it was kind of thing. And then I also had this painting of Superman that was like 8 feet tall that had like at least a 4-foot penis. Like that was like one of the other jokes because he's Superman. That was the joke.
Was it your face on it?
No, it was Superman. It was from a DC comic, but it was he had the Superman shirt on and he just bottomless. And then anytime I was like, "Is that Superman?" Yeah, Superman. It's a big penis. It's because he's Superman. That was
You imposed yourself in the lower half on that.
Yeah. Oh, that's damn it. See, that's a good joke, and I wish I was better at joke writing back then. Oh, that's a good. Yeah. See, it's a difference. I'm showing how. But so I had this opening, and it was a typical opening where like there was music playing and wine and cheese and and I paid all this money to do this and had all this set up, and it was quite boring. It really wasn't what I would want to do in an opening. And I remember like looking at everyone in the gallery and I'm like, because I also at this point in time had an exorbitant amount of student loan money.
Gotcha.
Because I was still in college, and I was just like, oh, I got student loan check, and it was very carelessly. I invited all the gallery to a bar down the street, and basically opened a tab and paid for most of the gallery to have one hell of a party.
Gotcha.
To the point where the owner of the gallery came down to the bar and was like, I've closed the gallery because you've taken everyone out of the gallery. It's your fucking show. And he was like so mad at me. And I was just like, do you want a drink? Like, it's a lot more fun down here than the stuff in the gallery. And he was like, yeah. And that's kind of the point where I realized that, like, if I'm going to show, I want to show where everybody can have fun.
Gotcha.
I don't want to show in like a place that
stuffy.
You'd sit there and look at things and you can't really talk and everyone's worried they can't be so much. I want the music to be too loud. I want the potential of someone throwing up on something. You know, I want it to be a party.
Yeah.
And also have the art being part of the party.
Got you.
So, yeah.
All right.
I don't know if that was.
I could see doing a stuffy show again in a decade or two, and that be the joke that it's out of place and like awkward.
But see, what I would do with that joke is I would make it that you would take all the people from the one location that you had the party, and you put them in the gallery, and then you just not tell them what's going on, and you just be like, you get them extra drunk, extra like fucked up, so that they can just be extra. I also had this idea for a TV show one time where I wanted to send my friends on scavenger hunts for things, but then go around ahead of time and buy all of that thing so that there was no way for them to find it, and then just film the frustration as it builds, that they start at Walmart and it's like, do they have it? And they're looking like, oh man. And they ask around, no. And then you go to like Target and Jesus, and then you start going to like these little subtle, and it's always something that would always be there. It's like something you easily could find at any grocery store and anywhere, but everywhere they go, it's just, and then just kind of make the odds more and more like piled up on top of itself, so that you get more and more stress, and then eventually they just blow up on someone, and it's just hilarious. That's my idea of a good joke.
And they go over your house and it's just full of cornstarch or whatever.
And that's the thing, and that's the joke, is after the interview you'd be like, oh, what did you need? Oh, here's some. And it's like pulled off a shelf, but you have a bunch of it. And that's just, So if I ever get a chance if I ever get like a production company to give me money, I will 100% make that show. And everyone will be really, really mad at me for it, because it's just going to be mischief all the way around. But yeah.
All right. Well, where can people find you?
You can look at my Instagram. It's Reverend Daisher Rocket Likes People. If you just Google me, typically is how I work it. Just Google Daisher Rocket, and you can find a lot of the things.
The Daisher Rocket.
Yeah.
Reverend Daisher Rocket. Yep.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm doing like I said, I've been doing a mural for the next 2 months at the Shop and Save on East Pittsburgh Street. Charlie Family Shop and Save. So if you're in Greensburg and you want to say hi, stop in and say hi. I'm at Toad's every Tuesday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you want to come in and let me make you a drink, that might be okay. I'm there too. Which actually, they're very good. I'm a very good bartender at times. I don't know. I have a show coming up in Columbus at the end of the year.
Yeah.
My gallery's in Jeanette, Clay Avenue, 600 Clay Avenue, Jeanette.
You on TikTok?
Yeah. I have a TikTok account. What is my TikTok account name?
Be careful in Ohio.
Yeah, no. My TikTok account is Reverend Daisher Rocket.
Yeah.
So, and that's actually, I'm at 942. So if we can get above 1,000,
then you can go live.
I can go live. And that's, after that, then I'm just going to.
Oh, you're going to be live all the time.
So much weird shit with TikTok. And that was like, remember when TikTok was getting banned?
Yes.
I found it so funny when everybody was like so upset on TikTok. And it was just like, it's not going anywhere. Like, it's just a matter of like I don't care how much, like, there's no way that the American dollar is not seeing what's going on, and they're not going to be like, no, we want TikTok, because look how much shit you buy off TikTok.
Oh, it's amazing.
And there's some really nice stuff. I think I don't have any shoes. I had a pair of shoes, those Bruce Lee shoes.
Okay.
I bought those off TikTok because I was like, Bruce Lee shoes.
I want that.
I don't know what else. What else do you need?
No, that's good.
Good talking to you guys.
Thanks for
inviting me. Yeah. This has been fun.
Thanks.
I really like this space.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're recording today at the 1028 Podcast Studio, and if you're interested in recording a podcast, our friend Corey, who you can find on most of our other episodes, is the owner and operator of this beautiful space, and he is and we got this right here. So you can check it out at the 1028 Podcast on Instagram, and you can book this space. It's very affordable. It's located very centrally in Sharpsburg. It's about 5-10 minutes from downtown.
This is my first time in Sharpsburg.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. I want to do that wall right here.
Okay.
This building. That's why I'd like to paint a wall.
Right here?
Because there's little things like need to be coming out of those different colored bricks.
I know some people. They might be interested.
All right. Like
So,
a tentacle
yeah.
and maybe a hand. I had this one idea. So there's this building in Greensburg called the Ring Building.
Yeah.
And I had this idea of just this hand jutting out with this giant cartoon ring on top of it. And they were all interested until like they realized that it was like going to come out. Like I was trying to get it to come out off the wall.
Got it.
And they didn't want that.
So the painting would look like it's coming out, or it would be like a
I
sculpture?
was going to build a thing.
A sculpture.
Which is fine, because I'm not a very good sculptor, and I'm pretty sure I could not do it very well. But I would figure it out as time went on. But yeah, it was a good idea. I still got to do it. It's
like
just a matter of-
Phoebe from Friends. Do you know what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
yeah. Like, no, yeah, it was almost, it was actually, there's some Renaissance painting where they're reflecting on a ring. It might be a Caravaggio or something like that. I don't remember how it is, but there's just something like everyone's looking at this thing, and everyone's like abashed, and the hand is really jutted out there. So that's kind of where it's from. And I want the hand to come out of a shoulder, because there's like this little awning aspect that, like, I think an arm looks like the top of a shoulder, like a puffy shoulder. And I want his arm coming out of it and like, sticking out of it. But they said no. I also think there might have been issues like going through cables and stuff.
Gotcha.
But yeah, I'm trying to build a park too.
Okay.
I really want to build an Alice in Wonderland park, so I've been talking to the
nice.
the county officials that do it, and we've been discussing, and hopefully they'll be for it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, like with a park design, I think you design it. I don't want to build it because I would be unsure how safe things would be. Like, I don't think I have the ability to build a merry-go-round.
Yeah. It sounds like we were in Denver, and there was this exhibit called Meow Wolf, and it was 5 stories. It took over 200 artists 4 years to build.
Okay.
Over 80,000 square feet. These gigantic buildings. They combo it with a music venue, so it's this. And they've built other ones. I think there's 3 or 4 of them now throughout the states. But it sounds like something that could be. They have lots of different rooms, and you go in one and you go into another, and there's tunnels. And
Well, that's like the guy. I have an investor, so for my studio, I had I approached a guy from online approached me about doing work for him.
Yeah.
And he's owns a lot of Airbnbs, and he has different stuff around the area, and it's like,
Gotcha.
but and one of the things that there's a brewery in Jeanette that the old, I don't know what brewery it was, but there's this old brewery that's like considered derelict, and it's like running down, and they want to tear it down, but like I'm just trying to I keep trying to tell can we buy a brewery, and he's just like, well, how much is that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, let's see. Like, they're going to tear it down. I feel that they would just, because at one point in time, Jeanette's such a downtrodden. I hate to say that, but it's in the up and coming. It has some, but
it's going through a wave.
Yes, yeah, and it's like it's a glass factory. It was a glass town, and it was an industrial town, just like a lot of these little places like around here.
Yeah, and
they all left, and all those communities left. Now it has like one big industry, but it's just a lot of empty buildings, a lot of empty, main streets, all empty buildings, things get knocked down. A few here and there, things are popping up, but there's these houses there that they want like $5,000 for. That are just these giant houses, and like the conditions are you just have to kind of be willing to repair them. Some of them like run into historical issues, like where they're actually like historical sites, so you have to like repair them correctly, and that's like a lot more problematic than what it was. But
especially when there's like a tree growing through it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Some of them. I looked at this one because they were going to get they legitimately years ago, like before pandemic, they were just like, do you want a place in Jeanette? And I was like, what do you mean? And like, we have these houses that you could turn into whatever you want.
Right.
And I was like, and mine was like, it had a carriage house. And like the carriage house had like a tree solidly growing into it, and then it was going into the house. Yeah. But it was this beautiful like funeral home that had like radiators as big as this, as big as this wall.
Yeah.
Little just these beautiful like buildings and stuff, and it would have been an amazing house.
Yeah,
but it just was so much to do to fix it. It was just but
interesting.
I think we went off topic.
No, it's okay. Yeah, we're just doing a little sign off.
Yeah,
that's all right.
Yeah.
And if you want to check out the print shop, check out pghprintship.com. We do lots of fine art prints, fine art reproductions. We do like nice photography, printing, as well as our little copy center, signage, stickers, banners, stuff like that. and everything is all ordered through the website. We process everything that way, and we've been having a lot of fun just doing the production and doing the day-to-day. We really enjoy the work, so we're doing that. And if you want to follow me, the best way to find everything that I'm doing is just my Instagram, Josh Snyder 86, and that's Snyder with an I. So feel free to check us out, and appreciate you listening. Thank you for being on with me, Brittany.
Thank you, Brittany.
I love it. And
you'd have some good questions.
and thank you for listening. So we hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got something out of this, and we appreciate you checking out another episode. Feel free to like us, comment, share it with someone if you think that that's necessary. And thank you for listening to Thoughtful Discussions with Josh Snyder.
Later, Gators.